The KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. It is Friday, April the 26th. This is the day, I kid you not, I'm not just saying this to be a guy. This is the day we'll all look back on. And I say we, I mean Vikings fans. And they'll go, man, it all started to kind of make sense that day, didn't it? Because the Vikings, in my opinion, had a spectacular first round last night. Not just because they got a potential franchise quarterback. They got an edge rusher. They had two players, many predicted to be top 10 picks. I'm thrilled with what the Vikings did in the draft last night. And on top of it, as I already mentioned, it's Friday. So what could be better? What could be better? J.J. McCarthy out of Michigan is your starting quarterback of the future for the Minnesota Vikings. Dallas Turner, a complete monster from Alabama. A lot of people had him going easily in the top 10. What nobody imagined was that this would be the most offensively loaded first round of a draft ever. It was just offense. The Vikings were stunned to see Dallas Turner still sitting around when they had the 17th pick. They traded up from 23 to 17 to get him. It's a great value for a really good player. Best player on the board at that time. Of course, quarterbacks are the main consideration here. J.J. McCarthy out of Michigan, your reigning national champion, a kid who lost one game in the last two seasons of college football, and a guy that Jim Harbaugh never felt the need to turn loose, if you will. I like it, and that's because I'm a Michigan fan, and so I have absolutely no objectivity here.
Yeah,
how about that?
No. Yeah, no, I mean, it's he was what was available. I guess there was maybe one or two other quarterbacks. It's the quarterback that they've been courting, that everybody's been excited about. And we have the call here, Coach O'Connell and Adolfo Mensa making the call from the Vikings player room, draft room.
Come on.
Let's go.
Come on.
One love, right?
My dog.
My dog.
Come on.
Let's go.
Come on. Let's go,
I didn't
man.
know that.
What'd you promise me?
Promise you we're going to win.
How much we're going to win. I know you're going to keep your promise, man. We're so excited to have you.
Yes,
Had to
sir.
be a little patient. Had to keep you waiting a little bit, but still all in the process to build you a better team.
Yes, sir. No worries at all, man. Can't thank you enough. Ready to get to work.
All right, brother. Here's Coach O'Connell.
My man.
My man.
How's everybody doing, man? You guys fired up?
Hey, fired up, Coach. We're ready to go.
We're going to go do this damn thing together. Can't wait to get you here.
Let's go do it, Coach. Thank you so much for believing in me. I promise I won't let you down.
There you go. It's a promise.
He promised. He promised they won't let him down. You heard them say, hey, this is the team we're building for you. I mean, if you draft a quarterback in the first round, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. Is this a guy they want to be the franchise quarterback? But with J.J. McCarthy, after the signing of Sam Darnold to replace Kirk Cousins, it's clear that the team feels they have the guy. And if you're J.J. McCarthy and you didn't blow the doors off college football, you just won every game, but your stats aren't as impressive as a lot of people's. Boy, could you walk into a better situation? I don't think so. O'Connell's a great offensive coach. That receiver core, J.J. McCarthy you can't say if he doesn't work, well, it's all about the situation he came into. He is perfectly set. If he's as good as Jim Harbaugh says he's going to be, he's in the right place, and the Vikings should be happy. But equally as impressive, as I said, Dallas Turner, that edge rusher, that was the guy Brian Flores had circled all the build up to the draft. Flores was like, I'm on this kid. I want this kid. They didn't think there'd be any chance he'd still be available by the time they got him. Again, they had the 23rd pick. They traded up to get him at 17. They're thrilled. That's two game changers potentially on both sides of the ball. A big night for the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Dallas Turner maybe, of course, everyone's going to be more excited about J.J. McCarthy, but Dallas Turner is the sure bet.
Yep.
I mean, he's the guy that will be the game changer.
That's right.
With Hunter leaving, you needed an edge rusher. They've got their edge rusher. And, he's going to be a Minnesota Viking for a long time. And J.J. McCarthy, we'll find out. We'll see. I mean, it's there's a lot of potential there. He's in the right situation. They went out and got themselves a running back. They've got that receiver core, the offensive line coming together. They'll find a little more depth there. Here's what the fans down at U.S. Bank Stadium last night had to say about it.
They got a guy they wanted, and it didn't cost them arm and a leg, and just the idea that he's just a couple days ago, he had a quote where he said he'd run through a wall for Kevin O'Connell, so he was excited to be here. We're excited to have him. Exactly. So what more could you want, right?
Everybody went absolutely nuts. You know, my phone's lighting up, so everybody globally seems to really like the pick.
No, I think it's a great pick, especially at 10. A lot of mocks are saying trade up to 3, 4, 5. I think get him at 10. If that's your guy, I think it's a great pick. And we get to keep 23 too, which is huge. Build up the defense.
There you go, JJ to JJ for the score, right?
It's pretty great, JJ to
like
JJ. Well, I wonder what JJ thinks of all this.
Dynamite!
Damn straight! Yeah. Oh, we're going to be hearing a lot of dynamite. Come on, man. That's going to be on that giant board at the stadium every time they connect. It's going to be, I mean, Jimmy Walker's the happiest guy in the world right now. JJ is alive and well in the Twin Cities. The man that no one is talking about, the man who led the Vikings for years, Kirk Cousins. What about Kirk Cousins? How was his draft night? Well, we'll let you know. Let's just put it this way. He, at some point in the night, probably said, "Why is my nose bleeding?" We'll explain what that means in just a few minutes. Hang tight.
Connect with us on the KQ Talk and Text line. 651-989-ROCK. That's 651-989-ROCK. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. Friday, April the 26th. Little Steely Dan reeling in the years. Years ago, my son Connell was probably 6 or 7 at most, and we were in Florida, and we were sitting at a Wendy's, and that song was playing in the Wendy's. And in the middle of it, he looked at me and goes, "What's this song?" I said, "It's called Reelin' in the Years by Steely Dan." And he goes, "This is cool." And I said, "Yes, it is." And I kid you not, 2, maybe, I'm not exaggerating, maybe 3 years later, we were in the car, and it came on, and he goes, "Hey, that's the Wendy's song." And I was like, "Oh my God!"
They wish
that. Yeah, no kidding. I was like, "Man, that kid's got a memory on him." Okay, yeah, I
chip off the old block.
And I knew exactly what he was talking about when he said it, because I also have a memory, and God, it's a curse, because I really would have been happier if I'd been, "What are you talking about?" And then we had a laugh. But I was like, right away, I was like, "Yep, that's right. That's what we heard at Wendy's." JJ to JJ, get ready for that. It's going to be how would you describe the JJ to JJ era? Zep?
Dynamite!
Yeah, J.J. McCarthy, Justin Jefferson. Get ready, Minnesota, man. It's going to be pretty great.
I mean, he's obviously going to make the team, but he's got Sam Darnold sitting there, who went higher in the draft, pick by like 7 picks than he did, and has some experience under his belt, and he's going to have to learn. He's got some mechanics to work through. So, for Vikings fans, I was texting last night with my buddies, and they're like, "Oh my God, what's the schedule? Game 1, who's he playing?" I'm like, "All right, hold on, whoa, grab the reins, let's pull it in just a little bit." But you never know. Let's hope this kid comes out and just lights it up.
Well, I mean, look, the Patrick Mahomes' first start was what, like
well into the season.
12th or 13th game of his rookie season, right? I mean, it's not. It was week 17. Well, whatever it was late, and that's how it used to be, and that's how it should be. I expect JJ McCarthy to be holding a clipboard, watching Sam Darnold, just try to regulate and get things on an even keel. It's going to be exciting though, knowing you got a kid who could potentially be a franchise quarterback. You got Dallas Hunter, a great edge rusher, who, like you said earlier, he's the no miss. He's going to make it. He will be an impact player.
He'll be a starter. He'll be, I mean, potentially, I'm going to get cocky here. He could be all pro his rookie season. I mean, he could be defensive rookie of the season. I mean, he's that good. Very excited they got him. And I thought he was better than Indy's pick. Well, I'm forgetting now that edge rushers started to go a couple of picks before that at 15 or something like that. The defensive guys started coming along, but I thought, boy, they nailed it with him.
He's the
Dallas
guy Flores wanted too. So when your defensive coordinator is as accomplished as Brian Flores, and he's like, "You know who I want? This kid," and then he gets that kid, that is a good sign. What about the forgotten man, Kirk Cousins, the guy who led the Vikings for years? Kirk Cousins had quite a day, quite an offseason already. Of course, he left Minnesota, just signed a 4-year, $180 million deal with the Atlanta Falcons. So he's clearly the Falcons man. So he sits back back on draft night thinking, get me some offensive linemen, get me an edge
wide
rusher,
receiver,
maybe I'll pick up a wide receiver. Come on, Atlanta. Let's build something. Let's go forward. Let's move. This is my team. And on the 8th pick of the night, his brand new Atlanta Falcons chose a quarterback, Michael Penix Jr. from Washington. And not only did they choose a quarterback, they let Kirk Cousins know they were considering it right about the time they chose him. He got a phone call during their 10 minutes on the clock to say, we're looking at Penix. And Kirk Cousins, his people immediately, when contacted his agent, his manager, they were like, we're disappointed and stunned. I mean,
dismayed.
Those are not the words. Yeah, dismayed. Those are not the words you want to hear from the guy you just gave $180 million to.
I mean, so you go with a top 10 pick here, then you go into the press room. You've got the head coach here and the GM in Atlanta. You expect some buzz, right? Some a little crackle in the air, some excitement. Here is the Atlanta press talking to the Atlanta head coach and GM.
Questions for Terry or Raheem, whichever one of you called Kurt when you were on the clock and you tell me about it. What's his reaction?
Well, that's a private. We wouldn't share that, and obviously
reactions are pretty private, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, because it's a sensitive time with the issues of what you got going on. It's never a right time to talk to a quarterback about those things, and reactions are always going to be private when it comes to those things.
It's like a funeral.
He's a competitor, just like us all, and you can always expect those things to go just like you kind of think.
I tell you
just
what,
like you kind of think. Yeah.
I mean, that tells me that Penix went and worked out for him. He had a great combine day. He must have worked out for the Falcons, and then they just simply fell in love with the kid. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of those GM versus owner. Arthur Blank, the owner, is looking at his staff, and they may have been butting heads over it. But ultimately, they went after a quarterback after just finding their quarterback. Not unlike the Seattle Seahawks, if you remember. They signed Matt Flynn, who filled in for the Packers and had a couple of great starts in as a backup when he was called to duty. The Seahawks go give Matt Flynn a Brinks truck of money and then draft Russell Wilson. And who do you know is starting? Russell Wilson. No one saw that coming. This could be the very same thing. And Penix Jr., started in Indiana, transferred to Washington. He's had more significant injuries. I don't know this, but I'm willing to bet he's had more significant injuries in rehab time than any quarterback ever drafted in the first round, ever.
They've got something to talk about, Penix and Cousins, don't they? Recovering injuries, those sort of things. It's we do have some reaction here. Kirk Cousins, they did catch up with him, reacting to Penix being picked number 1 by the Falcons. Seems a little upset.
That sucks.
I tell you what, if Penix knows what's good for him, he'll go hire Cousins' agent. That's the one thing we can say is that Mike McCartney, who is Cousins' agent, knows what he's doing. He'll get Penix a $300 million deal in 4 years.
Yeah. I mean, he's got $100 million of that guaranteed. He's going to be just fine. And they light a fire under his ass, and you hedge your bets. You've got a 35-year-old quarterback. Yep. By the way, that's maybe won a playoff game. I'd really have to go Googling that right now, but not a lot of playoff success with all those stats and a bunch of wins to go with it. Oh, yeah. And he tore his Achilles last year, so it's coming off that. So
listen, it is a snub and it's a nosebleed for Cousins, but everything you just said makes perfect sense. A 35-year-old coming off an Achilles injury, and you know what? If Cousins wins that job, he signed a 4-year deal, but I don't think anybody expects him to be the starter for 4 years.
Not 4,
I just don't think it's possible. The Vikings got out of this. This could very well be in a couple years one of the great Vikings dodged a bullet moments when they decided not to match Cousins' offer, and they said, you know what? We're going to take our chances with Sam Darnold, who's at best a lunch pail guy, and we're going to go find a quarterback of the future. Let him learn under Darnold, hopefully turn the reins over somewhere towards the end or for the second season, and everything's going to look pretty great at US Bank Stadium. The idea that they were contemplating or that we were talking about maybe getting rid of JJ number 1, Jefferson, in order to get up. I mean, can you imagine how we'd feel if that had been a part of this? Thank God that didn't happen. I don't.
No one in the Vikings organization was talking about that. But once the rumors started, and of course, they haven't signed him yet, and we all know that. Jefferson is sitting back waiting to see, well, get me a quarterback, and then we'll see. Am I going to play out my last year and then hit free agency, or is this a team I can grow with? And so you've got JJ to JJ.
JJ to JJ, man. That's going to be, how would you describe it, Zepp?
Dynamite!
Hell yeah! Hey, on the show today at 9 o'clock, we're talking with George Lopez. Very funny gentleman.
Yeah.
George Lopez, he of the many, many TV shows, movies, and books and whatnot. And then John DeBoer is over at Acme this weekend. He's going to come in and hang out with us at the end of the 9 o'clock hour, around 9:30. And then also, oh, gosh, I don't know, maybe we'll give away Judas Priest tickets as well. I'm sorry. I screwed that up. We're giving away Rob Zombie and Alice Cooper tickets. That's right. So that's all still to come today. In just a few minutes, Mike Evans and history. Hang tight.
Connect with us on the KQ Talk and Text line. 651-989-ROCK. That's 651-989-ROCK. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. It is Friday, April the 26th. The Vikings have a quarterback. They got an edge rusher. I'm in a good mood. Kirk Cousins is not in a good mood. Zepp, are we ready to roll? Are we ready to roll with Mike Evans?
Rock and roll.
So you might remember that I worked for the New York Post years ago, and for the last 22 years, I get New York Post bulletins, usually hours before you would see the story.
Oh, boy.
Well, yesterday morning, I had a doctor's appointment when my cell phone beeped with a New York Post bulletin that Harvey Weinstein's New York rape conviction had been overturned on a technicality. Thank goodness that I was at the doctor's because I almost fainted. Harvey Weinstein had been convicted of multiple rapes in New York. Remember, he was also convicted of rapes in California, so at least he will remain in prison while they retry him in New York. Harvey Weinstein is the most despicable human being I have ever met. And I've met O.J. Simpson. Movie Review Friday, opening today, Unsung Hero. The true story of a family that came from Australia, no money, but high hopes and dreams of a musical career and leaning heavily on their Christian belief. They would eventually become the nucleus of the band For King and Country, which is a popular Christian band now. This is a great feel-good family movie. Everybody in the cast is great, including Lucas Black. You'll remember him from NCIS. And Lucas was the little boy in Sling Blade. I got a sidebar in just a minute. I can't say enough good things, though, about this movie, Unsung Hero. Rated PG. Take the kids. Under 2 hours. 4 stars, Unsung Hero. Now that sidebar about Sling Blade. I think that's my favorite movie of all times. Lucas Black was that little 10-year-old boy in the movie Sling Blade. If you remember, there's a scene where little Lucas, the 10-year-old, is talking to Billy Bob Thornton, Sling Blade, when he mentions his stepdad, Doyle. Little Lucas says, "I like to kill that son of a bitch. I hate him." Billy Bob Thornton said, "You ought not talk like that. You're just the boy." Boy, I like that Sling Blade movie. Someone Likes You also opens today when Jake Allen's best friend and love interest when she tragically dies, he finds out that she has a secret twin and makes it his life duty to find her.
Look out.
And you guessed it. He finds her.
Yeah.
And new love is found as well. Boy, this is a chicks flick. Bring a handkerchief. It is a tearjerker like you can't believe. If you like this kind of movie, you're going to love this. Someone Likes You. By the way, it's from Karen Kingsbury's novel of the same name. And a reminder, beside those 2 movies, that I had 2 movies I reviewed last week. Both got 4 stars. They're still playing. So you have those 2 movies I just talked about, plus the true war comedy, Ministry of the Ungentlemanly Warfare, and that horror comedy movie, Abigail. A lot of good movies this weekend. And it's just a reminder, it's Aloha Friday, no work till Monday. We're going to play today Aloha Friday. Have a great week. Lily, Yokanani, Lani, Ani, okay, and a coo, and a cock, and a ock, and hooey, 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 ho.
There you have it. From Mike Evans to Judas Priest. Next week at the Armory, 92 KQRS presents Judas Priest. Listen all weekend because we're hooking you up with tickets. Your first shot to win happens today after 5 p.m. with the Queen, Lisa Miller. There you have it.
I got to get a hold of promotions. We can't give them all away. Let's save a pair, shall we?
I'm trying to go. Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah, let's go.
Oh, great.
Oh, we can rock some Judas Priest. I think that'd be a
rock,
blast.
paper, scissors for the pair that they'll.
Let's do it. I tell you what, as long as we're doing stuff, let's learn a little something. On this day in 1995, in Denver, Colorado, Coors Field officially opened. The Rockies beat the Mets 11-9 in 14 innings. It was a omen of things to come. A lot of offense out there in the high altitude. I've only seen one game there. I saw Barry Bonds get his 40th steal of the 1996 season. That gave him a 40-40 season. 40 dingers, 40 steals. And his head was still normal size then.
Well, it's his body, would inflate and then deflate from time to time.
Sure.
And then,
Yeah, no, he was still skinny Barry, who was already the best player in Major League Baseball long before he started jacking himself like there was no tomorrow. On this day in 1993, Hal McRae, manager of the Kansas City Royals, pretty mild-mannered fella. But after a loss, a reporter said to him, "Hey, did you consider Brett for Miller with the bases loaded in the 7th?" And Hal McRae said this.
Are you freaking kidding me?
Oh, you're freaking
Too much dancing around on the internet today.
Oh, that's all right. Listen, he had one of the world's all-time greatest meltdowns, which capped it off with the classic, "Now put that in your pipe and smoke it." But it wasn't just that. There were more cuss words per minute. It was Earl Weaver-esque, Hal McRae.
It's the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS. Zep, Tony, Candace, and Steve Gorman are the KQ Morning Show. 92 KQRS.
Lonely is the Night by Billy Squier. Is that Kirk Cousins' official theme song from last night? Man, Kirk Cousins, just a solid citizen. Literally, I'm not being snarky. A wonderful man, a great guy. Got all of his priorities straight. I'd love to hang out with him sometime. But boy, did he get the rug pulled out from under him. Signs with the Atlanta Falcons for 180 million Kleminskis. 100 of that is guaranteed. He's going to be 36. He's on a torn Achilles rehab, and the Falcons just back up a Brinks truck. Good for him. But then the Falcons ran over his foot with that Brinks truck last night by drafting Michael Penix Jr., the quarterback from Washington, with the 8th pick of the draft. I mean, think about it. You're Kirk Cousins. You're like, okay, we're going to beef up that offensive line. We're going to get me a receiver. We're going to get an edge rusher. We're going to do something to build this team for me. And they're like, we're building our future team, dude. We're going to pay you a king's ransom to teach Michael Penix what it's like to be an NFL quarterback.
I don't know why they'd go out and burn up 180 million. 100 million of that is guaranteed, but they've got a plan in place, I'm sure. But nice guys finish last. I've said it before on this show. Give me the prick that wins Super Bowls.
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, there's no question about it. Gary Shandling always said, if you think nice guys finish last, you don't know where the finish line is. But he wasn't talking about sports. One rumor that was flying around yesterday was that the Vikings had been attempting to get the Chargers on the horn to discuss a trade for Justin Herbert, their quarterback, ahead of time. Vikings brass is all saying, that's ridiculous. I don't know where these stories come from. It comes from sources who know what they're talking about.
Because the GM for San Diego said the Vikings called him.
And by the way, the Vikings would be crazy if they didn't try to get Justin Herbert. That's, of course, you want a guy like that. But that said, they didn't get him. So with the 10th pick, they traded up one spot from 11, and they took J.J. McCarthy from the University of Michigan, who did nothing really but win while the starter for Michigan. He lost one game in 2 seasons, and including and that includes a national championship, a loss in the semifinals, and then following year a win for the whole thing. J.J. McCarthy, here's the thing about him that cracks me up. Look, I'm not going to bet the house that he's going to be a franchise icon, but I think he's got a really good shot. I think he's a really smart kid, first things first, you got to have a brilliant mind. Secondly, he's coming to a perfect opportunity for a young quarterback. Great offensive-minded coaches, great defense, a really good and improving defense, I should say, and a truly great receiver core. It's a perfect place for a kid like J.J. McCarthy. For everybody who says he never threw for big yards against Michigan, he didn't do these things, that's because his coach was Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, right.
Who built that team for almost a decade to not need their quarterback to win games. That team was all about, we're just going to pound it down your throat. We're going to break your spine and break your will and win games. The key thing about J.J. McCarthy to me is look at what he did throughout his career on 3rd and long.
Oh, by the way, I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, not only 3rd and long, but Nick Saban was working for ESPN last night. He was on the analyst team, and he said that he personally broke down what he thought was most important about a quarterback, a young quarterback in the draft at the Division I collegiate level, and that was 3rd down efficiency.
Yep.
So he stacked all the stats with all the quarterbacks in the draft last night, Caleb Williams included, for 3rd down efficiency. Number 1, J.J. McCarthy.
Kind of important.
Yeah, 3rd downs. A lot of people say you win your 3rd downs, you win football games.
Yep.
You win Super Bowls when you win your 3rd downs. So, and I'm not saying that's all J.J. McCarthy, but that's a pretty impressive stat. And, speaking of the Chargers and those guys, look who they went with in the number one spot. There he is building that Michigan team. He wants that big offensive line. He wants to muscle the football a little bit. How about hometown boy Joe Alt?
That's pretty awesome. I mean, to go 5th in the draft as a big bell cow up front, and then going to play for Jim Harbaugh, like you just mentioned. Here's the thing about Harbaugh right now. But anytime a college coach has great success and makes the jump, this season, next season, Harbaugh knows more about the kids in the draft than any other NFL coach. He was just coaching against them and scouting them. Like, he has some insight into great college players right now in a way that most NFL head coaches don't. He certainly is well aware of who was great for Notre Dame. So if Harbaugh drafts you 5th in the draft, 3 months removed from a national title at Michigan, that's a pretty sterling endorsement that you are the guy. Hometown kid.
Out of Fredley, Totino Grace.
Yeah, man, that's fantastic for him. Congrats to the Alt family.
6 feet 9 inches.
That's a hoss right there, man.
Yeah, that's a big boy. That's a big wingspan. Yeah,
that's a monster kid.
Yeah, they're going to plug him in right away there at that left tackle position, and he will play for a long time.
His dad was pretty good. His dad, John Alt, was a member of the Chiefs for a long time, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, he was absolutely an All-Pro tackle himself, and chip off the old block. And so, congratulations to the Alt family, and congratulations to the Chargers. They have themselves an instant lifetime starter, knock on wood. He'll do well for him. But, and then that was one of the things that they had talked about. Some of the pundits were talking about that, well, if you're so high on J.J. McCarthy, why don't you go ahead and deal your quarterback there in San Diego, Herbert, and then pick J.J. McCarthy, which, of course, is laughable.
Yeah, well,
you've got an all-pro quarterback. But, we'll see how he does.
20 minutes after the Vikings selected J.J. McCarthy, word came around. They just traded up from number 23 to number 17. So the Vikings last night had the 10th and 17th pick. With 17, they took Alabama edge rusher Dallas Turner. That's the kid Brian Flores, the DC for the Vikings, wanted all along.
Yeah.
When I saw that, I was like, oh my God, what a first round, because that dude is instantly going to be impactful. He is an absolute torrent on the field.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, as much as McCarthy just stepped into a perfect position with the coaching staff and the receiver corps, Dallas Turner coming in under Brian Flores is going to wreak havoc very early in his career. So, I mean,
he has receiver speed. He has receivers 4.4 speed, off the edge, and not to mention he's huge. He's got a lot of power too. He can bull rush. He does it all. Yeah, they're going to plug him in right away. You're going to see his number a bunch right around the quarterback.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. The draft, the NFL draft, was in Detroit. If you were watching it, and I gotta say, it's kind of fun. I mean, it looked like they just set it up in a parking lot. Right?
Yeah,
didn't
right.
I was at the draft 5 years ago in Nashville, and it's just down an alley of honky tonks. It was like the biggest party you've ever seen. And last night in Detroit, I was like, they're just in a parking lot. What the hell's happening there?
Yeah, they've got, but there was like 150, 200,000 people there, about 300,000 to 400,000 descended. I mean, I remember growing up and it was wasn't it like Radio City Music Hall or something like that every year with a little crowd of weirdos? I think when it was in Vegas a year or two ago, they had about 1 million people there when they opened that up.
No,
so
taking the draft on the road was a really great idea, for sure.
Yeah, it's a pretty big party.
The ratings for the draft are bigger than just any NBA regular season game. Yeah. They're bigger than a lot of NBA playoff games, for that matter. It's just become such a part of the spring sports season. No other. The NBA draft is pretty exciting for 5 or 6 picks. The NFL draft is different because third, fourth, fifth round players still come in and make impacts every single year. Especially on the defensive side of the ball, there's so much talent that you see kids coming in late in the draft who do end up making a real difference for their teams. It's an exciting time. If you're a Vikings fan, suffice to say, it could have been a whole lot worse. I do think there's reason for great optimism for the purple and gold.
Yeah, they don't get a pick today. It's day 2, so they don't have that pick. They'll pick again tomorrow when they get in the 3rd and 4th rounds. But it's just be patient. J.J. McCarthy. There's only one quarterback that was drafted last night that's going to start, presumably on day 1. That'll be Caleb Williams. Everybody else is going to be grabbing a clipboard and developing, and that'll be J.J. McCarthy too, unless something happens in the preseason, like an injury to Sam Darnold, or J.J. McCarthy just overachieves and really just goes nuts in the preseason. So we'll see what happens. But that's exciting. You got a quarterback, but then you've got that edge rusher. And now go get yourself maybe someone in the interior of the offensive line or the defensive line, a defensive back. They've got some picks left, and get all excited about it.
It's pretty exciting. The Titans, my AFC team, the Tennessee Titans, took in the 7th pick of the draft, they picked the big left tackle, Latham, and their GM after the game, after the draft, Rand Carthen was asked about him. He's the 7th pick, and he said, hey, if he doesn't pan out at left tackle, we have guys on the roster that we're comfortable with at left tackle. You just took him 7th in the draft. My buddy on Twitter, Captain Touchback, says, if he doesn't pan out, you should be fired.
Yeah, exactly.
What kind of quote is that? Hey, if he doesn't work, we got other guys that could take. It's a 7th pick.
And it's Latham. This guy's going to be a celebrity left tackle. He's got that kind of personality and size, of course, out of Bama. And no, he'll plug in there. Yeah, just what a weird thing to say. I hadn't heard that till you just mentioned it. That's stupid.
That's really good. Exciting times for the Minnesota Vikings, and now we have to sit here for 5 months and just continue to recirculate the same ideas. I think he's going to be good. The one thing about J.J. McCarthy that I will just say again, a lot of people pointed to the game at Penn State this season where J.J. McCarthy didn't throw a single pass in the second half of a game. And everyone forgets Jim Harbaugh is a sociopath. Jim Harbaugh had a small lead in Happy Valley, and literally for reasons only known to him, he just wanted to win the game without throwing the ball to prove a point to who knows whom for who knows what reason.
Yeah.
That's why J.J. McCarthy's stats aren't as overwhelming as you might think. Harbaugh's the kind of guy who's like, let's just run the ball the entire second half. Let's just, you know what? I want some 1948 football out there. Let's do it, boys.
And it's in Happy Valley, and he's a Michigan guy, too. And although when he played, Penn State wasn't in the Big Ten, he played against Penn State. He knows what it's like to go into Happy Valley and just run it down their throats. Yeah. And a hell of a defense. He did that, too, as well, to win that game. I watched it.
That's exactly right.
That's the Harbaugh way, and that's why Joe Alt found himself a pretty good home there in San Diego, because they're going to put him to work. Yeah.
By the way, the last time a Michigan quarterback was taken in the first round, if memory serves, the last time a Michigan quarterback was taken as a top 10 pick, it was Jim Harbaugh.
Oh, really?
It's a long time ago.
Long time ago.
Yeah, I think maybe like Elvis Gerbach went 24th or something. One of those, the list of great Michigan quarterbacks, it's not really that long, truth be told. But J.J. McCarthy, certainly a lot of hopes resting on him. And I will say this, he's a super bright kid. And, when you're drafting a quarterback, man, you just need somebody that can handle it. I mean, I think Caleb Williams is also an exceptionally bright kid. I think Michael Penix is also an exceptionally bright kid. So you've got some real. I just don't know enough about Jaden Daniels, but I know that people are very high on him. But the three guys I do know a little bit more about, as is always the case, Super, super bright, and J.J. McCarthy's right there. All right. Let's talk about a few things I'm thinking about. Things we all do, but we never talk about, okay? There's a list I saw. Things that people do, we don't discuss them. Common human experiences. But here's the thing. A few of these I do talk about, but I'll get to them in a second here. How about this? When you get a call from a weird number, do you ever Google the number to see if you can figure out who it's from?
I used to.
Yeah, I have done that before. Now I get so many of them, I just ignore them all. But yeah, I definitely used to do that. Who is that?
How long ago did you stop answering calls from numbers that weren't already in your phone? Was there a moment when you realized I'm never answering the phone again unless I know who it is?
Yeah, I think it happened pretty quickly, just like that. It was this is done. If they're not in my phone, I'm not answering it. And we have this little thing called voicemail. Feel free to leave a message. I'll get back to you.
That's a pretty good point. I held off. I was so. Because occasionally I'm the guy who loves to get a spam call and then just tie the person up for 20 minutes because they're
oh yeah,
I will literally discuss with them like I'm listening to what they're trying to sell me or whatever they're telling me I need to do or warning me against, and then I'll ask them if they prefer butter or margarine or whatever. The way I look at it, it's like it's a prank call that I didn't even have to make. It came to me.
Yeah,
it's great.
I used to do it all the time. In fact, it got really out of control right there on the KQ studio line because people started giving the number out. I started doing it on the air when they would call in the afternoon. I would just be like, oh, yeah, and we would have a whole conversation. It would be uncomfortable and weird, and but then it just got out of control. But yeah.
Sure. How about this? If your flight isn't boarding for an hour or two, you're hungry or you want a beer, do you go to the gate first just to make sure?
Yep.
You do? Good thinking. It's always important to do.
Yeah, it's going to be there. I'm just sure of it.
I know, but
I don't do that one.
I do. I go to the gate.
Straight to the bar.
I go right. This is something that, and so when my kids were little, we traveled a lot because I was on tour the whole time. And I never lost sight of the fact I didn't get on an airplane until I was 20. And then the next time I got on an airplane, I think I was 24. I mean, I just did not fly until I was, until the band really started touring and I was in my mid-20s. My kids grew up with me on the road and flying a lot to come and see me and hang out. And so I was obsessed with not having stupid airport kids. I just couldn't live with myself if they were not what I called professional little travelers. And so we had airport legs, we had airport speed, different ways of saying you walk fast, you don't dawdle, you don't look around. And so the whole point for us was it was like a land invasion. Get through TSA, get to the gate. No matter what, boom, get to the gate, then assess the plan, then see how much time you have, then find out if you got a delay. But the whole thing was, by God, you got to get to the finish line and then retreat back if need be. And I'm thrilled to say that both my kids now have had trips in the last couple of years where they've gone places with their friends. And both of them will be like, oh, my God, these people drive me crazy at the airport. Yeah. They're wandering around. They're stopping at every little store. And my kids are the ones who are like, got to get to the gate, and then go back. I don't know.
You've basically ruined them. You've made them the black sheep of traveling, and that's a good thing.
No, not fun to travel with, but never late. That's the key. Never late.
I like the plane. How often do you miss the flight? The only time I ever missed a flight was, when I got... so shat-faced sitting in the bar that I just... And I think I kind of at the time knew I was missing it. I was like, I'll grab the next one. But yeah, you'll get there.
I for years, my policy was don't get on the plane until you hear your name on the PA. You know what I mean? It's like, why put myself in an uncomfortable seat longer than I have to? So I wouldn't be sitting right at the gate. Just like waiting, and then passenger Steve going, boom, get up. Oh, here, you're sorry. And then and of course, the person's looking at you like you were sitting right there, you douchebag. But, hey, man, I'm going to be cramped. Give me an extra 20 minutes not sitting there in a tiny seat. I'll take it every time. How about this one? And this is me all day long. One pocket is for my phone. The other pocket holds everything else. I don't like stuff in my pocket phone.
Pocket. I mean, I'm always afraid. I don't like more than one thing in the pocket. Only one thing. Keys go in this pocket. This might go in that pocket. Whatever. I don't, because when you pull it out of your pocket, then I'm always freaking out that the other thing fell out.
Yeah.
But now I only wear pants that have a phone pocket. That's what a snob I am. I'll go into the store and I'm like, I quit wearing jeans. I'm like, well, does it have a phone?
Have pockets.
Does it have the little side pocket? Yeah,
You're ready to you're constantly ready for a spin class.
Yeah, you can wear a fanny pack though. I can't get away with that. I'm going to get ridiculed and probably beat up.
I do have a couple fannies.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in college, my girlfriend said to me, "Do you ever not wear high tops?" And I said to her, I never know when a basketball game is going to break out. and I've thought of that right now because I'm like, Candace is always ready for a spin class.
Yep, I'm in my comfy era.
651-989-ROCK is a KQ Talking text line. If you want to share a thought or two, feel free to give us a ring. How about this one? If you're at the grocery store and you need one specific item and there's someone standing in front of it, do you pretend to look for something else until they move? Do you that person standing right in front of they're standing right in front of the Ritz crackers. I'm just going to pretend I'm looking for saltine crackers.
Yeah, and you find yourself standing in front of the kidney beans going, well, let's see here.
You know what? I'll be honest with you. I don't do that. I stand a comfortable distance away, but I stand there and I don't pretend to be shopping. And if they look up and they'll always go, oh, I'm sorry. I said, that's okay. I'm just waiting to get this. Fine. And I give them the whole, no, take your time, but I'm not going to. And it's a weird, I don't know if it's a weird control thing with me or I don't know what that is.
You're trying to intimidate the little old lady.
I think that's actually what it is.
Coupon shopping.
I'm like, look at how big I am. You newt. Get out of my way. You're
they can
lesser
feel
than
your
me.
breath on the back of their neck.
That happened to me recently. A little old lady was standing behind me.
Oh, really?
Rushing me, and I cannot be rushed.
What's the decision to make? Grab it off the shelf, throw it in the cart, and away you go.
Oh, I take a while in the store.
Are you reading the labels?
Oh, God, no. I don't go into a grocery store unless I have a list. I refuse. And even if Rosemary says, hey, on the way home, pick up, she'll give me 3 things. But I put them on a list in my phone. I have to. Because if I don't have that list, I will go buy caramel corn and green beans. And she'll go, what the hell is this? And I'll go, I don't know. I thought that's what you said. I have to have that list in front of me.
And it'll take you 2 hours to do it. That's what I do. If I don't have a list, I go in, I get nothing I want. Suddenly, I'm making s'mores because I saw marshmallows. I'm like, when was the last time I had marshmallows? Well, now I got to get a Hershey bar and some graham crackers, and I get home. And it'll take me forever to find that stuff. And then I get home and realize, dinner. I guess it's s'mores for dinner or something like that. So, no, I've definitely got to be focused and have a list. But this is on this list of things we do but we don't talk about. Mm-hmm. And I thought I was the only one that would walk into a store. It just happened to me the other day at the dollar store. I thought, it's the dollar store. I wonder if they have. I'll just wander in and take a look. And as I'm looking around, they don't have it. Yep. And I just walked out. And as I walked out past the register, I almost looked at him and said, I'm not stealing it. I just didn't find what I wanted. But I just kept walking thinking, do they think I'm shoplifting?
You're immediately suspicious.
Slow down. Yeah, don't walk fast. Don't look suspicious. Just casually walk out like you own it. But, apparently that's something people do.
It is something people do. I used to do that. Used to be me. I've gotten way better about it. But I grew up in a house under suspicion. So I'm the guy who throughout school, if a teacher came in the room and said, "All right, who did?" My first thought was, "Oh my God, they're on to me." And then I'd go, "I didn't do it. What the hell's wrong? Why am I acting guilty?" I always acted guilty, except when I was guilty. I had a perfectly little fine-tuned criminal mind. I could completely act cool when I had done something. But it was when I had no fingerprints on any caper. That's when I felt like, oh my God, they got me. So anyway, thanks, Dad. Hey, Candace, do we have a caller who wants to share a thought or two?
Randy from Stillwater.
Randy, good morning. What's happening in Stillwater today?
Morning, everybody. Oh, just waiting for the rain.
All right.
Steve, you were talking about never getting on the plane till the tail end.
Yeah.
I worked up in Alaska in the early 2000s and always took a flight back from Anchorage to Minneapolis, a red eye, so I'd get on like at 12:05. And I would get there and I would look at how you boarded the plane. And if you boarded right behind the cockpit, and then you walked through first class, I was the last one on, and I would walk up and sit down in a first class seat like I knew what I was doing and ride first class the whole way home.
Really?
What if
Free
there was
drinks.
someone?
Well, in a midnight flight from Anchorage to Minneapolis, it was hardly ever full. But if you boarded halfway through, then they needed to see your first class ticket to take a left into first class. So
Right.
Then I was kind of screwed.
And so, wait,
If you boarded behind the cockpit, then you could just sit down in first class and enjoy.
Yeah, it's amazing they never came up. They didn't check the seating chart. That's a good one right there. It's funny you say that, Randy. I was on a flight with the band in the 90s, my former band. And the band, we were in first class and the crew guys were in coach. And one of the crew guys just sat down next to me. And I looked at him and I was like, oh, that's cool. You got bumped up to first class. And they were just about to shut the door. We'd been sitting there for 20 minutes and a guy walked up and was like, I think you're in my seat. And, and the crew guy goes, oh, I'm sorry. I must have been mistaken. He got up and left. And I thought that was the funniest thing ever. I was like, wow, you're just going to go for it. Everything used to be easier back in the day. Randy, thanks for the call, man. We appreciate that. Speaking of airplane seating, I did see just yesterday, Southwest, apparently the CEO of Southwest was on either Fox Business or CNBC, one of them, and said, we're contemplating doing away with the open seating. Southwest Airlines is thinking about going assigned seats like everybody else.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't fly Southwest enough. I've flown it a couple of times, and it annoyed me just because it was different, and I'm always in a mood to easily be annoyed with any little thing that's different with the airport experience or anything in life generally. But but I know some people that love it, so I haven't experienced it enough to learn to love it. But,
all right, Southwest. If you live in Nashville, Tennessee, you fly Southwest because that is the way Delta kind of runs the scene here. Nashville's a Southwest hub. So for years and years, I moved to Nashville in 2004, and I'd only been on like one Southwest flight. But I got used to it very, very quickly. The weirdest thing I've ever experienced was the one time I flew Southwest in the 90s because they used to have seats that faced backwards. You'd see an aisle, and there'd be three seats. Yeah, they had it like you're sitting on a train.
Like a train, right? Yeah.
Not every other row, but throughout the plane there'd be like 2 or 3 sections where three of the seats were facing the back, and so you could. I guess it was so people that were traveling together could engage in conversation face to face.
If you're not traveling together, it's a little too face to face.
It really was, and I got on a flight. It was it was the band. We were flying from somewhere to somewhere, and the only flight was a Southwest flight, and none of us had ever been on Southwest. And we got on, and we saw, and there's literally 6 of us, and we're like, well, there's 3 seats facing 3 seats. We should just take these. And even though we all know each other intimately, and it was the most uncomfortable, do I make eye contact or no? And then during takeoff, and I was one of the guys sitting backwards because I don't have travel sickness things. But a couple of the guys were like, oh, I could never be backwards on a plane taking off. I'd hurl all over you. And I was like, yeah, no, we gotta do something about this.
I wouldn't trust anyone I'm traveling with not to mess with me when I fall asleep. Not if, but when I fall asleep with my mouth wide open.
Oh, God,
I don't need anyone right in front of me. I've already ended up with fuzz balls and chewed sunflower seeds and also paper clips, all sorts of things shoved in my mouth from friends. So, no, that's just too easy to access. I don't know why that's okay on a train. Maybe because we don't fall asleep. We're not on trains as much, unless you're talking Amtrak. But no, I don't want it on a plane. I want to feel as isolated on the plane as possible.
Now, the train's okay because you got the window and you're looking out and it's ground. The train's a whole different experience. I love nothing more than traveling via train. Gosh, I love trains. Big fan.
All yours.
Really?
I mean, it's okay if there's a sleeper car. I took an Amtrak out to Montana one time, and nothing against the Amtrak, but I thought to myself, next time I'm going to frickin' fly. First of all, North Dakota. Enough said. I mean, it was fantastic when we got halfway through Montana. It started to get really interesting. But go sit in the observation car of the Amtrak crossing North Dakota. If an old rusty car didn't occasionally go by sitting out in the field, you'd just think you were looking at the worst picture ever of a brown dirt field. But it wasn't my thing. But I get it. I get it.
The only trains I've taken in the States is like the Northeast corridor, like Baltimore to New York a bunch. family in both places, or Boston,
maybe
New York. That's kind of cool.
Dash somewhere, something like that.
I've done the high-speed trains in other places, and that's what I'm talking about. Like, if this country had a proper high-speed train system, it would be game changer. But
this was 20 hours.
Oh yeah, no.
There were stops along the way, you'd stop in Minot or something like that for an hour and a half, and I've seen little meth towns in the Dakotas before. But yeah, so anyway, like I said, maybe if we had the sleeper car and I could have stretched out and slept, you've got your cooler in there, do a little partying. That's not the route I went, but anyway.
Speaking of which, ever see the Gene Hackman, Ann Archer movie called Narrow Margin? A train across Canada with a murderer and a whole... It's like the whole thing's going down on this train. It's one of those... It's a great movie that you don't have to pay 100% attention to, but of course it's the gentleman's gentleman, Gene Hackman, so that's going to be great. He's trying to get a witness safely from like Montreal to Vancouver on a train. And there's people on the train trying to figure out who they have to kill. It's fantastic.
Then I would dig a train. If there was a murder and it was Orient Express and we're trying to solve it. There was a Charles Bronson movie on a train once too. There was a lot of mayhem and secrecy and shooting. That would make it a lot more interesting, I think, for me, probably, if we could go that direction with it.
Do you ever have the thing where you take a swallow of water, or it happened to me the other day and it was a beer, you just take a drink of something and then you get literally an excruciating pain right in your chest?
Oh, yes. That happens to other people?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I thought there was something wrong with me. And I always think it's like, this is it. This is the big one. I'm coming for you.
No, it just happened to me a couple days ago. I had that thing and I'm like, oh, what? And then, within like 9 seconds, it's gone. And then you forget about it.
You feel like you broke something. You tore something in there. All right. Well, I just tore my heart in half or something. I need surgery. Yeah. It's excruciating.
I will, if I can't find the TV remote, I will literally turn a room upside down. I will go through the couch more than once. I will remove every cushion, put them back, and then if I still don't find the remote after 5 minutes, I'll go back to the same couch and pull up all the same cushions because by God, when the remote's missing, it just makes me nuts. Yeah,
it's panic. It's panic. It's what are we going to do? I don't even know how to change the channel. There are buttons on the side or on the bottom somewhere, but I don't know where they're at, and I'm not going to stand there by the television. But
I'm just more afraid of like, oh my God, are we going to have to talk to each other? Oh.
Yeah, no. Let me look again. Maybe it reappeared under the cushion. You ever done that? I do that with my keys all the time. I look in the same spot 5 times. All 5 times, it's never there. But something about it, human nature, we would just want to keep. It's got to be there. No, it's not.
I've in the last couple 3 years, for the first time ever, I'm really bad about just putting stuff down in a place that makes no sense. I literally, the other day, hopped up, me and Rosemary are watching a Sugar on Apple TV, Colin Farrell. Pretty good show. Kind of digging it a couple episodes in. A private investigator in L.A., it's kind of weird, kind of cool. We're digging it. We're watching it. And I got to go to the bathroom. I said, hang on a sec. So I hit pause. I go into the bathroom. Quick leak, come back, sit down. I'm like, where's the remote? It took us 10 minutes to find it. It was in the bathroom.
Of course it was. You walked, classic. Mine always ends up in the kitchen.
Not only was it in the bathroom, it was sitting on top of the litter box. And I'm like, what? And what is wrong with me?
You must have had to really go. Yeah.
What is wrong with me? Not only did I have to go, I had to go so bad I couldn't do it with a remote in my hand. Nice. I had to set it down on top of a litter box. It's just problematic at best.
No, one more here, by the way. Talking about things we have in common we don't really talk about. Let's go to this HBO classic from George Carlin. I love this.
You ever been talking to yourself and somebody comes in the room and you have to make believe you were singing?
Oh, yeah. I've done that. Because I mentioned yesterday, I talk to myself a lot, and then I'll constantly be out in public mumbling to myself like a crazy old homeless man, and then I'll catch eye contact with someone and go, then just skipping away.
Yeah, that's the one thing I miss about like COVID era is the masks. No one knows if I'm talking to myself.
Yeah,
right.
I've been talking to myself for as long as I've been talking, man. I'm always working through some thought in my head. When I'm in the car alone, I'm full on having a conversation. All the little Stevies are in that car. We're all hanging out.
I've done entire radio shows on the way to work. Just chatting away and blah, 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 the whole thing. I'm like, I'll have to remember that. That wasn't bad. But, just blabbing away.
No, I used to have to do it for just as life management. For years in my band, it was a very contentious bunch, and there was a lot of there was just arguments constantly about every little thing and every big thing. And it didn't take too long before I realized, like, I got to just keep my mouth shut and then go process what's going to be the most effective thing to say to myself first. Because when you're in a room with people and everybody's just yelling and immediately responding and never taking a breath, after a while, that gets really tiring. And so, I would literally go. I'd be, I would go back I'm on the bus. I'd go back, get to the bunk or in the hotel, go to my room, and then just talk through it, including all the things I wish or that I want to say. Get those out of the way first. All of the insults, all of the buttons, I know the greatest vulnerability, and I'm going to press that button right there. No, I'd say it to myself, get it out of the way, and then go, okay, what do I actually really want to say? And I still do that about any number of things. I talk to myself all the damn time, and I've seen two things said about that. It's either a sign of great intelligence or a sign of some sort of underlying mental illness. I'll take both, Alex, for 200.
Right. Make it work for you. I'm such a hothead. I know that comes as a shock to both you and Candace and many of our listeners, but I'm a hothead. My initial reaction is always the one I don't want to make. So I might start practicing that. Just get that hot-headed, blowhard thing out of the way. Then I don't have to apologize and come back with, okay, that sounds good. I'll do it.
It's the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS. Zep, Tony, Candace, and Steve Gorman are the KQ Morning Show. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show. It is Friday, April the 26th. The Vikings have a new quarterback of the future. They got an edge rusher for the future. A nice first round for the purple and gold. I didn't even look, Zep. Anything of note with your Pittsburgh Steelers? Anybody exciting? I haven't seen a single thing about the Steelers.
Steelers off to a pretty good start. So in the first round, they just had one first rounder, unlike those greedy Minnesota Vikings, but ended up picking up a guard out of Oregon. Well, he's a tackle. I'm sorry. I take that back. They were projecting he might go as guard. Mike Tomlin said, no, we're going to plug him in at left tackle. A big kid out of Hawaii. Huge Troy Polamalu fan growing up. His mom named him Troy Bianu. All right, I'm going to screw that up only one more time before I get it right, because he's going to be a starting tackle for a long time for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Welcome addition to that team.
You know what? I saw some shots of him, a little footage of him with his family when he was drafted. I didn't realize it was the Steelers pick, but I'm like, wait a minute, I totally saw that.
Lifelong Steelers fan, and he's an animal. He's aggressive. He's one of these guys that'll come out and get you on the offensive line.
Troy Polamalu, my son's favorite player back when he was a kid. Just that hair sticking out the back of the helmet. He loved it. And Connell's greatest ever Halloween costume was he had the wig and the top hat and the sunglasses of Slash, but with a Polamalu jersey. And so he was Slash Polamalu. And it was great because like 3 dads all night went, oh my God, Slash Polamalu, like totally got it right away. They're like, the hair, man.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, go either way. They're both solid.
Good little football rocker kid he was at the time. It's pretty great. Hey, listen, you can catch up with this very show, the KQ Morning Show podcast, anytime you want. We have a good time. We interview a lot of fun people. George Lopez, in fact, will be with us in about 30 minutes. Anywhere you get podcasts, anytime you want. Remember, you can find that bad boy. And, of course, the KQ Morning Show podcast sponsored by Candace Wheeler.
Devoning's Pizza and Hot Hoagies, the best.
Those hoagies are pretty great, aren't they?
They're so good.
They're really, really good. Here's a quick local story for you. Local being Coon Rapids anyway. Somebody not named Steve Gorman is sitting on a lottery ticket worth $1.5 million. The lottery announced yesterday a jackpot winning. The game was Lotto America. It was sold in Minnesota. Second time in less than 2 months that a Lotto America winning ticket was sold. This one, total worth $3.1 million, but the cash option's about $1.4. This was sold at a Cub Foods, Northdale Boulevard, Coon Rapids for the April 24th drawing. So someone is sitting out there with a whole lot of cash in their pocket.
Wait a minute. Did you say Lotto America? How many freaking lottos are there? This happens to me when I go in. I don't know if it's the Mega that's worth $1.5 billion or the Powerball that's worth $1.5 billion. I don't know. I'm not skilled at this. This isn't something I've really... I just wander in and go, in addition to an Almond Joy, I'll take a couple of lottery tickets. Which one?
Okay.
I don't know the one that's worth of the most money, but Lotto America. Now, that's one I've not heard of before.
Okay, I'm looking at the website for the Minnesota Lottery. You got your Powerball, which everyone knows what that is. You got your Mega Millions. We all know what that is.
Okay.
Lotto America is similar, 5 numbers and then the big winning number, but it's much smaller numbers. Like Powerball and Mega Millions, if somebody wins, the next one starts over at $20 million. Lotto America starts at $2 million when someone wins. Then you've got something called the North 5. Never heard of it. Right now the jackpot's $27,000. Then you got the Gopher 5, $140,000, and then Pick 3, which I think they just give you like a bag of peanuts. I only go the big boys. If I'm gonna burn $2, sometimes $3, I'm going for Mega Millions or Powerball.
Well, then you add my sporting app to that, and what's that hotline for gambling addiction again?
Yeah,
there's just so many of them out there. It's kind of mind-boggling. I know people that have. I know someone that Candace knows as well that has an entire folder that she keeps organized of all her lotto. She has spreadsheets and everything going on. Never won a damn thing in her life. But she takes it very seriously, and I'm sure she's not the only one. A lot of people out there playing all these different lotteries.
I'm always
at least
blown
when
away.
I don't win, I hardly play. I go, well, I don't really expect to win, but I mean, if I play every day, if I've got a freaking folder that's as 3 inches thick with spreadsheets on lotto information, I'm expecting to win something. That'd be a horrible disappointment.
I'm not a financial planner, but I think there's a couple of holes in that theory, in that plan. I think there's probably a better way to go about it. I'm always blown away when you see a story, and every few years it'll pop up. Some guy, and it's usually in New Jersey, just won a lotto for the second time.
Yeah,
and I'm not freaked out by the odds of that happening and the incredible unlikelihood. I'm freaked out by somebody who wins $10 million in the lottery and then buys another lottery ticket.
That's fueling the addiction. Those are the people that go broke, right? They win $10 million, walk away with enough to retire on whatever the payoff is on that. You can retire on whatever's left over from that payout, and then are broke a year later. It's probably because they're still playing the lottery. Just like out of control.
I would, one of the things I would get the most enjoyment from if I were to win the Mega Millions or the Powerball is the next time it's up to like $1 billion and someone's like, hey man, you going to buy a lottery ticket? And I just simply look at them and go, nah, I'm good.
Who needs it?
I don't need it. That's crazy. And then I'd say, no, that's a waste of money. Never tipping my hand that says, actually, I spent hundreds of dollars on the lottery and got lucky once, and now I'll be above all of you.
One hot day last summer, I wandered into one of our local convenience stores, remembering that we had just done the story, that it was up around $1 billion. I was like, oh, yeah, I need a lottery ticket. This is how inexperienced I am, or what a dolt I am, because I do it from time to time, but I always forget that you have to pay cash. So I asked for the lottery ticket. He comes over. He's like, that's $20 lottery tickets. That's $20. I'm like, oh, crap, that's right, I don't have cash. He points to the ATM. And I say, now with $1 billion on the line, he's already printed the numbers. Who would do this? I say, who needs all the problems those rich people have to deal with? I like being broke. And I walked out and left the tickets. And to this day, now listen, there wasn't a winner chosen. They have to do what? Shred those then?
They'll hang on to them and try to sell them to the next person, the next few people who come in. Yeah.
See, I just don't know. I'm that ignorant about this whole lotto system. But imagine my feeling if they had said, hey, at the SA over on Cedar Lake Road, we had a big $1 billion winner. That would have haunted me for the rest of my... What if that was my freaking ticket they sold him? But
of course.
I did think about that. It did bug me for the rest of the day, thinking, well, what if? What if, dude? That was
gone in and I'll say, yeah, I'll have a Powerball, and then they print it up, but instead of the $2 one, they give you the with the Power Play, so it costs $3. And I'll look at it, and I never question it. I'm like, no, I can't possibly turn it down now.
Not now.
And I'll be pissed because I have $7 in my pocket, and I don't want to break the 5, so I say, give me one Powerball. But then I'm like, well, you know what? Break the 5. I got to pay all $3. I'm not going to leave a ticket behind because that will be the one that wins.
Yeah, right. Well,
That's how that
my
goes.
buddy says here they can cancel the lottery ticket. All right, I don't know how that goes, but I do know that once you've purchased it and they printed it out and you walk away from it, I mean, that's a sickening feeling. But I was convinced I was doing the right. I was just trying to play it cool, like, who needs it, man? Go to the ATM? I don't think so.
Candace,
it was hot. I was
Candace,
in a pissy
I think
mood.
you'd probably agree that money can buy you a lot of things, but it can't truly buy you happiness. I mean, David Lee Roth said no, but it can buy you a boat that you can dock at Port Happy.
Yeah,
close enough.
I'd love to test that theory.
I'd love to do that with David Lee Roth. Wouldn't that be fun?
No, you wouldn't. No, it sounds great. Keep that in your head. Don't live that life. But if you love your job, they say you don't work a day in your life. All this to say, we may be losing Candace soon because there's a job out there that I'm afraid to. I'm a little nervous about mentioning this to you, Candace. If you're not aware of it, you're familiar with Panera, the restaurant chain.
Of course,
Panera. Recently added ranch to its menus for the first time ever. They can't keep it in stock. They're selling out their own ranch dressing like there's no tomorrow. And then of course they've got the chicken bacon rancher. They've got all kinds of things they're doing. Panera is hiring. They have a new job they've created, and the job is called the ranch hand.
There she goes.
I'm out.
Later, the new job listing says, with an unprecedented ranch demand after launching our largest menu transformation in history, we need a ranch hand to help wrangle the increase. So here's what they need. Somebody to champion the call for ranch at exciting locations across the country as they lend a hand behind counters in the kitchen and at the drive-thru to deliver on the chicken bacon rancher cravings. Candace, basically, you just have access to ranch dressing 24/7 and get paid for it.
Well, wait now. So it's their own kind of ranch?
I believe
Yeah.
I don't know. So I'm always game to try people's ranches. If a restaurant has their own ranch, sometimes they're good, but I'm really just like a classic Hidden Valley ranch girl, and I feel like people try too hard sometimes with their ranch.
Okay,
so I don't even know if I like this kind of ranch yet.
Ooh.
But seriously, it's a gig, and it involves ranch.
Yeah.
Come on.
I mean, you have the complexion. You have a ranch complexion. When people ask me, like, what's Candace's complexion? I bet there isn't a day that goes by I'm not asked. I'm like, ranch dressing? That's Candace, right? If she splashed it on her skin, if she had a little bit on the corner of her mouth, you wouldn't know it.
Does ranch work as a natural moisturizer, Candace? Can you confirm
I'm
or deny?
sure there's buttermilk in there.
Yeah. Who needs oil of Olay when you've got ranch?
I just love the fact that you're a Hidden Valley ranch only. There's so many ranch. Everybody likes to concoct their own ranch, but you're skeptic.
I don't know. Sometimes there's one place that I like Rectangle Pizza's ranch a lot.
Yeah.
But even that can get too much after a while. 'Cause I mean, I don't just do a little ranch. If I'm going to have ranch, there's a lot involved.
Right. Yeah. You want to gop it on
So
there.
it can't be too herby. It can't be too earthy. It has to just be just right.
Just good old trashy ranch. I'm the same way, like with my mac and cheese. Velveeta mac and cheese. I go to these places and mac and cheese sounds good, and they come out with a Gouda, cheddar, some exotic mix with shallots on top or whatever. I'm like, I take one bite and I'm like, it's what it's missing? Process. It's missing just salt and goo. Whatever radioactive goo they put in Velveeta. That's what I need. Sorry.
Yeah.
Wow. The job is actually part-time now that I'm looking a little more deeply into this. But it does say it's a part-time job, but the applicants must have a full-time love of ranch. So you're still in the... I think it's still certain thing.
Are you going to try it?
I got time. I can make some time. I'll just...
We'll expect a little ranch kickback our way for tipping you off to it. I know it was Steve, but I'll try it. I'm going to try the Panera Ranch. They come up. They sell now their mac and cheese also in the store, which is all right. It's gooey enough.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Quick pet owner story here, and this is right up my alley. Okay. I just love the idea of a couple looking up one day and realizing, hey, our cat's gone. What I wonder where it got off to. This is a couple in Utah. They had been missing their cat for 6 days, and then the cat was found. And the cat did go 6 days without food or water. Now, how do they know a cat who disappeared went 6 days without food or water? Okay, take a deep breath and just remember everything's okay. Well, the woman of this couple was sending a package back to Amazon and closed up the box and didn't realize her cat had hopped in the box while she was packing it.
What? I mean, how big was the frickin' box for crying? Was it a washer or a dryer?
Big enough for Galena the cat to disappear. Literally, the cat loves to hide in boxes, as all cats do in my experience. Inside was a box of work boots that was later packed up, dropped off, returned to Amazon. 6 days later, somebody opened up the box.
There wasn't a meow in there. Well, they do get off. They love their boxes, don't they?
Let me tell you something. You put a cat in a closed environment for 6 days and open it up, you're lucky that cat didn't rip your hand off.
But I found some audio.
An Amazon employee, a woman named Brandy, I mean, imagine her surprise. She's like, I got these return boots. And you look in there and there's a cat. She thankfully immediately started to care for the cat. Eventually, took it home, got it some food and water. Eventually, she brought the cat to her vet, and then they scanned a microchip and found out this cat lives in Utah. The box was opened in California.
I mean, this box was tossed around. It's an Amazon box, for crying out loud. No one heard a screech, a thing. All right, that seems awfully peculiar, but I did find this piece of audio. This is, I guess, Carrie, the owner of the cat, the person who boxed up her cat and shipped it back to Amazon.
We got the most amazing, insane news in the entire world. I just couldn't even believe that she was in California. I thought it was a prank. Like, I still hard to wrap my brain around. She was trapped in an Amazon package.
And it was in this really big-sized Amazon package.
We had no idea. So Matt took the package to the drop-off without knowing that our dear cat was inside.
Maybe the cat was trying to get away from her voice, her enthusiasm.
Could have been. So, by the way, to answer your question, how big was the box? It was a big box because it wasn't one pair of boots. There were actually 5 pairs of boots inside. Amazon had a try before you buy program, and so these folks had ordered 5 pairs of boots to try out. There were 6 pair, and they were returning 5 of them.
Oh, I see. So it may have been more than one pair of boots. I'm thinking, do I need a 9 and a 9.5? Should I try a 9, 9.5? But I don't need 5 different sizes. But it could have been more than one boots. So the cat got in the boot box, and away it went back to Amazon. I think about that chip thing. Do you guys have your pets chipped?
Chauncey's got a chip. I had to think about it. Chauncey's got a chip.
Okay, I don't know. Yeah, because that happens all the time now. Pets are getting lost. Sometimes they wander 600 miles back home, but often, that chip thing really works, I guess. But I've never chipped a pet.
I can tell you who's not going to find his way 600 miles back home. That's Chauncey Gorman.
Not Chauncey, no.
6 miles, no. 600 yards, maybe.
6 blocks.
Maybe. Short blocks on a straight line. We bought him. We found him. We rescued him. We adopted him, whatever the word is. Our veterinarian has a rescue place, so it was all connected. And when you get there, they immediately they do all the shots. They do everything as part of the package. And that included a chip. So he's got a chip in him. And I thought... this is how stupid I am. I remember saying one time, the first time he went missing, he's split like 3 different times.
Oh, really?
Out of the back fence, fenced in backyard. Yeah. Someone leaves the gate open and he's gone. 3 different times. One time it was over an hour. The other 2 times it was just within a few minutes. A neighbor saw him and grabbed him and he was fine. But the one time he was missing for a while, I said to Rosemary, I go, well, wait a minute, call the vet. He's got a chip, right? And she goes, well, yeah. And I go, well, I mean, can't they just track him? And she goes, it's not a GPS chip. It's like, it doesn't follow him. It just tells a vet who he is and where he's from. I thought it was literally like a tracker in your phone. Like I can see where the kids are. I thought, oh, he's got a chip. We can find him easily. That's not how it works.
No, that's exactly what I was just thinking until this very moment. I thought you had an app. You could just find him if he was in the basement. Maybe
that might exist, but that's not what we have. We just have one that if somebody scans him, then the vet that scans him says, "Oh, he's here's the vet he belongs to," and then they track it down and then they find you.
Oh, okay.
Not nearly as exciting.
No, not nearly as exciting, but I guess the one in the phone and the app and everything, that's probably coming. That sounds kind of cool,
Seems cool to me. Perrier. Drink much Perrier in your life?
Back when it was the only bottled water and we would go out to a nice place to eat, occasionally it would come up, but I don't see it around much anymore. There's only 5,000 other water options.
Perrier still very much exists. I remember Perrier was kind of exciting, and then Pellegrino was even more exciting.
Yeah, Pellegrino is where it's at.
Yeah,
I just ordered that. I went to the Olive Garden with my grandpa, and I ordered it. Just sounded nice, why not? I'm in a fancy restaurant. Might as well get,
Olive
treat
Garden.
myself. Sure. And it was a huge bottle.
Huge bottle.
Yeah.
And your grandpa's like, the tap water wasn't enough. We had to add $6 for bonus.
Oh, grandpas love that. Don't you buy in water? What the?
Yeah. Paying for water.
Yeah.
Grandpa's like, just is there a hose out back? Perrier, French bottled water company, of course, of great renown. They just had to destroy 2 million bottles of water.
Uh-oh.
Because one of their wells in southern France, where they've been using since 1903, well, they do water tests, and fecal bacteria was discovered in the well.
Gross. That's so gross.
So
how does that get into their water supply? I mean, you got to think it goes through a boiling process, 10 times filtrated, these kind of things. But some poop got in there, huh?
Apparently so. Now, the parent company of Perrier is Nestle. And Nestle said this was just a precaution. All bottles on the market can be consumed in complete safety, which they have no way of knowing.
No, did they say how the poop got in there?
Well, they haven't gone into specifics, but they did say that the region had a lot of heavy rains last month, and maybe it had something to do with that.
Yeah, I know,
but
it's
raining crap? What does that even mean?
Yeah, exactly, and it's not like you're keeping it in a holding pond out back, for crying out loud. Isn't this thing in vats, stainless steel, very secure, clean vats? I don't understand. I mean, and then after it goes through the process. In other words, so some rainwater washes some sewage into your water supply for Perrier, and then it goes through the entire process. You put it in the vat, then you bottle it and send it out, but it still had the poop in there. I'm questioning.
I guess it's a good thing that we know this happened, that Perrier has come clean with this, but
cop to it.
There had to be somebody who goes, wait, do we have to say fecal bacteria? Can't we say we just had an outbreak of Legionnaires in the pipes or something? I mean, something else other than simply this?
Yeah, the word fecal, that's, you don't want that associated with your brand at all.
To me, you know that there was somebody trying to cook up concocted another story of I mean, seriously, I guess I could say kudos to them because they didn't. Or, of course, maybe this is the concoction. Maybe this is better than what actually happened, which is that they found the CEO peeing in the water. Who knows?
Oh yeah, a rogue worker. Someone disgruntled worker on their way out. Yeah,
I don't want to get the Nestle company on my back. I'm just simply speculating here.
Who needs that?
This is all allegedly, possibly something that could have happened. I don't know.
Stay away from the poopy water. All right, we're going to move along. We got an interview with Mr. George Lopez, the show Lopez versus Lopez, airing back-to-back episodes with the season finale this Tuesday. Talking with George Lopez before 9 o'clock. Hang tight.
It's the KQ Morning Show, 92 KQRS. Zep, Tony, Candace, and Steve Gorman are the KQ Morning Show. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show for Friday, April the 20th. 26th. George Lopez is joining us in just a few moments. His series, Lopez versus Lopez, the final 2 episodes of the 2nd season will air Tuesday, back-to-back on Peacock. On NBC, streaming the next day on Peacock. We'll catch up with George momentarily. In case you missed it last night, the NFL Draft first round, big night for the Minnesota Vikings. JJ to JJ. Get ready for that one, as Justin Jefferson will be catching balls from J.J. McCarthy, the national championship winning quarterback from the University of Michigan. The Falcons traded up 1 spot to get him at number 10. And this is the guy they think is the quarterback of the future. Sam Darnold will be in place probably as the opening day starter. But, stranger things have happened. Maybe JJ gets that gig in camp and beats him out. We'll see. But either way, I think by the end of next year, you would be it would not be crazy to think that JJ is going to have that starting spot. As soon as the coaching staff thinks he's ready, I imagine they'll make that switch. This is, when you take a quarterback number 10, you do expect to see him in that starting role as soon as possible.
Yeah, and they didn't have to give up the bank to get him. They had offered. I don't know what they must have offered, but we know they tried to get into that number 3 spot. They wanted the Patriots pick. They wanted to get up there into that Drake May territory. That they've talked about that. That didn't happen for them. But grabbing a quarterback at number 10 with McCarthy still there, not the end of the world. They gave up some. What did they give up? A couple of 5 picks and a 4 or something like that. But here's the fans reacting to it.
They got a guy they wanted, and it didn't cost them arm and a leg. And just the idea that he's just a couple days ago, he had a quote where he said he'd run through a wall for Kevin O'Connell. So he was excited to be here. We're excited to have him. It's all on paper right now anyway, so what more could you want, right?
Everybody went absolutely nuts. My phone's lighting up, so everybody globally seems to really like the pick.
No, I think it's a great pick, especially at 10. A lot of mocks are saying trade up to 3, 4, 5. I think get him at 10. If that's your guy, I think it's a great pick. And we get to keep 23 too, which is huge. Build up the defense.
Optimism, fresh, the possibility of what might be.
Isn't that nice? I'm just as excited, if not more excited, that Brian Flores returns as the defensive coordinator and that Brian Flores got the guy he wanted. The Vikings also had the 23rd pick. They traded up to 17 to pick up edge rusher Dallas Turner from Alabama, who is an absolute beast. He's going to be an impact player right away. So on both sides of the ball, they've got a couple of pillars, people they want to build around and feel that they can build around. So all things said, and I'm seeing some analysts say they traded too many picks away long term. This might come back to bite them. Stop it. If both these guys deliver to even 90% of their potential, they're both going to have an awful lot to do with this team's success. But we got to take a quick stop in that because George Lopez is joining us right now on the KQ Morning Show. George, good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. What are you guys talking about?
We're talking about the NFL draft last night right now. Are you a football fan?
Yes, I am. But, my team is it's not very good, but, they're in the most exciting city in the world, Las Vegas.
Okay. So a Raiders guy. So you've been a Raiders guy for a long time?
When I grew up as a Rams fan, and then they left and went to St. Louis. They went to Anaheim, St. Louis, and they went to wherever they are. I don't know where they are now. But and then they come back 25 years later. I'm a Latino with some abandonment issues. I'm like, they come back. I'm like, sorry guys, I'm a Raiders fan.
Well, they got Brock Bowers, that tight end out of Georgia, last night, and that's
he's tough.
Yeah, he might be headed to the Hall of Fame. He's a one-off.
That's
not if he stays with us. He's not going to the Hall of
Fame. That's a realistic Raiders fan right there. George, did you play football as a kid?
Man. So in 10th grade, everybody was playing football. All my friends. So we go there. First 2 practices are just in shorts and t-shirts. I threw up. I've never even been that high in the bleachers, much less run them. And then, I make it through the whole thing. I make it through hell week, 2-a-day practices. It rains. You can't wash your uniform all week. The first day of school, my baseball coach says, "Are you a baseball player or a football player?" I was more of a baseball player, and I had to quit football.
Oh, yeah, probably for the best.
Shape.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. So, what was your baseball? What position did you play?
I played third base, and when I got as a senior, and I was looked down upon, I moved to right field.
looked down upon. You're hosing guys at first from third? Come on, that's a badass position.
Oh, man. I played against Darryl Strawberry, and I played against John Elway.
Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, Strawberry.
And Elway, he walks like John Wayne.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine him in high school. He was just amazing. I mean, everything he did, with flair. And then they had this big all-star game at this stadium in the San Fernando Valley, and every kid that played baseball went there. And it was Granada Hills, his team, against some stars from the Valley. And there was this line of like 50 people in front of him. He was waiting for his mom to pick him up, and everybody walks up there and they're like, "Excuse me, sir. Good luck in the professionals." We didn't know what to say. Everybody's just like they were talking to a man.
Elway and Strawberry, I'd be willing to bet you are a better baseball player than either of them could be a comedian. You got that going for you.
That's absolutely correct.
Yeah, no question. Lopez versus Lopez, final 2 episodes of season 2 this Tuesday. Long story short, what's it like working with your daughter?
Well, it's the fact that she's been able to in 2 years really kind of get the idea of the multi-camera format's really funny, very natural, always on time. So it's been a pleasure to work with her.
So you're playing a somewhat a version of yourself, as is she. How much of the show is actually autobiographical? I mean, what is the percentage if you had to put it down there?
Well, I mean, with classic sitcoms, there was the soap, and then All in the Family, some Barney Miller. There's a whole thing of like some realism. We wanted to keep that, so it's based in reality. Mm-hmm. She was very traumatized, and I didn't even know what generational trauma was until we reconciled, and we're dealing with all that. It seems a little bit over the top, but it's really kind of what every kid is going. Listen, I've been around enough kids to know none of them are happy. So it's a little bit about what's going on with kids and the fact that, lives aren't perfect, but then the people's lives that involve kids, they make it harder to try to stay perfect, but nobody's perfect.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, as a parent, and as you obviously are, and a couple of us here are, it's effort trumps results in a lot of cases. But sometimes, you throw your hands up and go, "Hey, I tried my best. I don't know what to tell you."
Yeah, I know. I just don't know. I think you can't bully kids. Of course, I mean, you can't. But if there were shades of degrees of it, I think almost, in school, there's a lot of there's this thing where there's no there's no kind of mayhem anymore. There's no fighting. There's no real running. Yeah. There's no kids that you don't know where they are. Everybody's accountable for. In childhood, there has to be a little bit of excitement, a little bit of flair. I think the flair has been taken away from the childhood. Of course, the imagination, but with everything that's around. But I'm not sure if it's going to, at the end of the day, help anybody.
Sure. If you look back at your life, go back to when you were 12. Put a 12-year-old from today in your shoes for one day. I don't think they'd last an hour.
No. I don't think that, chasing around flies with a rolled up Los Angeles Times is not a way to spend the summer.
Yeah, that's so George, this is you've had there's a lot of TV shows, there's a lot of comedy specials, there's books. I mean, man, you're a very, very busy man, and I am assuming you don't handle downtime very well.
It doesn't look like it, but I'm starting to get to the point where I think I'm starting to see a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel. I mean,
really?
I can't imagine a better opportunity than this. NBC has really been great, and then to get eyes to go back to broadcast TV, because there's so much on TV and there's so much streaming, but necessarily that every show that streams is great. But, broadcast is something that people have always felt comfortable with. I think everybody in the world has seen broadcast TV. Some of our best memories in TV are from broadcast TV, and it's an honor to go to NBC, because a lot of the shows I loved growing up was on NBC. And it's also, it's great to have people come back to watch NBC again.
Yeah, well, that's pretty great. You didn't grow up, or maybe you did, and I'm just unaware of it. But what I was going to say is, a kid growing up today, a Latino comic, or a kid who sees himself maybe as being one, he has you to look at. He has you to emulate. Did you have anybody that you looked at and said, "Oh, I gotta see how that guy did it"? Because as far as I know, you're on a lot of this stuff. You are the first.
Yeah, I think Freddie Prinz and Chico the Man and Cheech and Chong, who were on my show, who were on Lopez versus Lopez. I've known. I would have gone anywhere to see Cheech. I went to Malibu in 1981 to go see him, and he and I have been friends since the 80s, and Tommy Chong as well.
Mm-hmm.
So they hardly ever do things together, but they did my show, and the guest stars that we've had, the Cheech and Chong, and then you've had Marshawn Lynch, and then you've had Jim Plunkett, you've had Gabriel Iglesias, was on, and a show that you have that people want to be on is cool, and then when your show is looked upon like hey, look who's getting to be on the show, Brock and Sheena from Vanderpump and stuff like that, and Lisa Rinna. It's fun. It's been a kind of a 10-episode run for every show because of the strike, but I would bet that my 10 episodes of my show are really, really strong, and I'm very optimistic about coming back for season 3.
That's pretty awesome, man. Lopez versus Lopez. The final 2 episodes air Tuesday night, and then streaming the next day on Peacock. How do you guys beat out an episode? Is it you in the writers' room? Are you and your daughter mine? Are you in there as well? Are you knocking around ideas, or how does that work?
Well, what we do is we go through the showrunner Debbie. I'm much less in the writers' room this show because she's really good. They got these young writers who have generational trauma, and issues with their own family. So a lot of that stuff is kind of within the bounds of what everybody's kind of going through anyways. Anxiety, pills. We did a thing about not speaking Spanish. Kids don't speak Spanish, and all those things. So all of the things that we have gone through, Maya and I, in our real life, are just kind of right in the wheelhouse of the group of writers and the showrunner that we have. She has, everybody's got daddy issues, and I didn't have a dad, and I have daddy issues. So, it's kind of all in the mix.
That's kind of why I connected. I grew up with your George Lopez sitcom in the 20s. Oh my God, the 2000s. And that's kind of how I felt. I was going through so much stuff in my family, and I really looked towards that show as what I wanted and what I wanted to have for my kids when I was older, even though you did have problems and things that you addressed in that show was very real. But I did feel like it was comforting in that fact.
Yeah, thank you. It's almost like you can't set out to do that. I think if we set out to do that, we would kind of damage it. But inherently, we wanted to just kind of keep some reality based in that. My childhood, that shows more about my childhood. But also, in hindsight, and now looking back on all the years that passed by, we did help a lot of kids through some very traumatic childhoods. And the morning is the worst part when you're a kid and your life isn't the best, and you have to get ready to go to school. Maybe you don't want to go to school, you're having issues and stuff, and you just put the television on, and for an hour or 2 or whatever the thing was on, you just kind of forget about everything before you start your day.
Very true. George Lopez with us on the KQ Morning Show. George, this is a classic rock station. Are you a rock fan?
Come on, man, of course. I was friends with Eddie Van Halen for 10 years.
Oh, well, all right. That answers that. So, he was okay. He had a pretty good run there as the greatest guitarist ever, quite possibly. But when you were a kid...
I'll tell you. He grew up around that dude that sang "Secret Agent Man." That "Secret Agent Man."
Yeah.
And that guy was dumping trash. That guy was dumping trash over his fence, and Eddie walked up there and goes, "Hey, Secret Agent Man, keep throwing your trash over my fence, man. I'll knock you out." There's an Eddie Van Halen and Secret Agent Man are fighting.
Wow, Johnny Rivers and Eddie Van Halen going at it. That's pretty great. George, what's the first concert you ever saw? First rock show you ever saw?
I saw Kiss in 1975, and then I took Mayan to go see Kiss last December, and the ending, I love the guys in Kiss, they're friends of mine. The ending could not have been more horrible.
Really?
Bunch of smoke, and then you look at the screen, and they become avatars.
Oh, that's right.
That's right.
They held you for 50 years and then blew it at the last beat.
Man.
What a bummer.
I love those guys. I just think it was a little bit, this is huge thing of white smoke in Madison Square Garden, and you look up and they're flying and fires come out, and you're like, what happened? Where'd they go?
George Lopez. All right,
Where'd
Lopez.
Where'd the old Jewish guys go?
Yeah, exactly. Lopez versus Lopez Tuesday night. George, an absolute pleasure to chat with you, man. All the best.
Thank you.
See you.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys for your time.
That's awesome. All
Candace,
right,
big show in your childhood then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was getting a little emotional thinking about it. I had the first 4 seasons on DVD, and I used to just binge watch it.
That's great.
I don't know
a surrogate
why.
dad to you.
It was weird. I think it was it was, it was just like very comforting in the fact that they had all these issues like my family did, and then they always like worked it out in a way. And it was just kind of like relatable and nice and so funny, dude. I thought he was like the funniest guy ever when I was a kid.
Very nice.
You know what's bothering me about this conversation is my daughter, Taylor, you're the same age as you, also loved it. But wait a second, I was present. Did she have daddy issues? Taylor, I've got to go call Taylor. From one great comedian to another very funny guy, John DeBoer is the Acme Comedy Club headliner this weekend and our guest before 9:30. Hang tight.
Connect with us on the KQ Talk and Text line. 651-989-ROCK. That's 651-989-ROCK. 92 KQRS.
I'm Steve Gorman. This is the KQ Morning Show, Friday, April the 26th. Tonight and tomorrow night at Acme Comedy Company. 2 shows, 7 o'clock and 9:30. John DeBoer will be appearing. He's a very funny man, and he just happens to be sitting right across the table from me. John, good morning.
Good morning.
How's things?
Good.
You look fresh. You look shaved. You look showered. Look at you. Most comics come in here, they're dragging ass. You look like you've been at it for hours.
I did shower today.
Attaboy.
I did, and normally I don't for radio, but this is come on, it's KQ.
That's respect right there.
Yeah, and but you ever heard that thing? Make your bed the first thing when you wake up.
Absolutely.
Right, and so I did that, and I thought, I'll be back in bed by 10:30.
Sure,
Why
you
did
will.
I make my bed.
We all will. What do you? That's the protocol.
Yeah.
Get up, get it in, get back.
That's right.
A few nights at Acme. You've already been there the last couple nights. That's always nice. You're you're a local guy now, but you grew up out west, Moorhead, correct?
That's right. Go Spuds.
How's the border? How's life on the border as a kid?
They say Chicago is a windy city.
Yeah.
And it's not true at all.
Right.
I think technically even Minneapolis is windier than Chicago.
That checks out.
And in Fargo Moorhead, it doesn't matter what side of the building you stand on, the wind is blowing right in your face.
No matter what.
No matter what. You can't get around it.
Yeah, the hawk has eyes, and it finds you wherever you go.
Yeah, and even like growing up there, I don't know. You remember? Did you ever see the movie Fargo?
Oh, of course.
Right, and I think for all people in Minnesota, after that movie came out, you couldn't go anywhere in this country and tell people where you're from.
That's
without
right.
getting crap for the accent.
Very true. I have a buddy, Gary Loris from the band the Jayhawks, and we were talking shortly thereafter, and he was complaining about that very thing. And I said, gee, as a Southern man, that must be hard to deal with Hollywood stereotyping you. That's never happened to us.
Right.
It's like, I'm sorry, every movie with a Southern character ever? Yeah. So you got one. Okay, there's one. Although it was a pretty great one.
Right. Well, heck, I'm down in Arkansas, and they're like, y'all talk funny up there.
Yeah, that's
like,
right.
Excuse me, Cooter.
We all talk. Well, before I became a Southern gentleman, I was in Baltimore, Maryland, and now the Mid-Atlantic accent is like nails on a chalkboard to me. Just the bending. It's Philly, Baltimore, DC, that area. There's a specific. It's bad, man. It's like it's a weird one.
It's weird how language is blending.
Come on.
Yeah, right. That's what like 20 years ago, if you heard someone say, yeah, right, you knew they were from New York.
Yeah.
But now everybody in the world says, yeah, right?
Yeah, it's true.
I could be here in Minnesota talking to some 90-year-old guy. It's like, it's nice outside, right? And the old guy's like, yeah, right? I'm like, dude, Oldie, you're from Hibbing.
Yeah, Oldie from Hibbing, jumping on all the latest trends.
Yes.
Linguistically speaking, of course.
Right.
John DeBoer's at Acme. 2 shows tonight, 2 shows tomorrow night. First time you were at Acme, how long ago?
Probably 32 years ago.
Been a minute.
Yeah.
Pretty great spot. That's pretty incredible. So did you come to the Twin Cities to do comedy? The route is always interesting. Like, okay, let me go back farther.
Yeah.
How old were you the first time you started thinking, I think I need to do this?
Okay, first time I did comedy, there was 400 people there. My first time.
That's odd.
Yeah, so no pressure, right?
Yeah.
But I wasn't even supposed to do comedy that night, but I'd been drinking.
The great elixir.
Yeah, I was
the wings of society.
Yes.
Alcohol.
Yeah, I was that guy in the back where I'm like, I'm funnier than this guy. I stumble up there.
And you're the one guy who turned out was right.
Well, I stumble up there, grabbed the mic from the guy, and just pushed him out of the way and just started telling dirty jokes. And
really?
Yeah, a couple of the ushers come up, tackle me.
Where was this?
Physically carry me out of the church.
Yes. Didn't see it coming.
Right.
Wow, I walked right into that one.
You did. Okay, actually, first time I ever did, excuse me. First time I ever did stand-up comedy was my high school talent show in Moorhead, Minnesota, 10th grade.
Yeah.
I did 5 minutes of material. I won $50. And here we are this morning.
Getting paid for the first time doing it, and you walked out with money. It was over.
It was
game over
at that point. Yeah,
$50 went a long way then too.
It did. That was a lot of rentals at Videoland.
Yeah, sure it was.
Or at the arcade.
Yeah.
God, come to think of it, that was a lot of money back then.
Original material, or were you just blindly ripping off your heroes?
A little bit of both. First year, a little bit of both.
Uh-huh.
I definitely remember using Stephen Wright going, I spilled spot remover on my dog. Now he's gone.
Yeah, right.
Right. All right. So don't worry, Chauncey. And and then the second year I wrote everything, and then it worked. And then the third year I kind of dialed it in, wrote everything, and it all worked better. And then I did. I had a co-host and a desk, and played onto the Tonight Show theme. That's what I wanted to. That's what I wanted to do.
Nice.
And so.
And along the way, it's all sort of worked out.
Yeah, yep. Then I went to college. I wanted to either be a fighter pilot or engineer or a comedian, and I guess I was only smart enough for one of them.
Is a large part of your act about childhood trauma by any chance?
It is now.
Fighter pilot, engineer, or comedian. That's some mixed messages, brother.
Right. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's
Hey,
great.
John, you joked about a gig at a church, but I'm looking at your bio here on acmecomedyclub.com. You played 3 penitentiaries. Is that weird to go in for the first show to a penitentiary? Are you a little intimidated? Do you change your act, or is it just the same old audience?
It was this was back in the 90s, and they brought comedians to prisons then. And I did the one. I did the one with a comic, Alex Jackson. It was the two of us. He's a headliner, and I was a young guy. Mm-hmm. And we went up. We did Duluth. That's a medium security. And then we did Sandstone. Duluth is minimum. Sandstone was a medium security. I got done with that show. I called my mom. I go, Mom, I just did a show at the prison in Sandstone. My mom goes, oh, wow, your grandpa's brother was in there.
Nice.
Yeah, nice to find out you come from good stock.
Perfect moment to get the family secrets unraveled.
Yeah. And then I did do the one down in Rochester where, remember Jim and Tammy Baker?
Sure.
Yes.
And Jim Baker was just 3 feet right in front of me. Just sitting there grinning.
Yeah, he was.
Position, and that was a trip.
Oh my
there.
God, that's great. Yeah, the one thing you don't expect when performing in prison is to recognize someone.
Right? Right. No.
Like,
hey, dude, where you been?
Hey.
And one guy, the funny one guy, I did a joke about whatever, breaking up with my girlfriend, and this was at the Duluth one. And this guy goes, "Oh, there goes your sex life." And I go, "Hey, I might have a crappy sex life, but it's not half as bad as yours, pal."
Man, no kidding. Hey, sometimes the truth hurts.
Yeah.
You got to sling it. Truth teller
Right.
John DeBoer's in the studio with us at Acme tonight and tomorrow night. As a kid, let's go back to Fargo Moorhead. What kind of music were you into? Like high school years, who were you rocking out to?
I think back then in the late '80s, it was your Eddie Money and Survivor and
whatever was on the radio.
Whatever was on the radio, and at that time. And the funny thing is I can go back to Fargo Moorhead, listen to the same station, and hear the exact same music.
Yeah, of course.
I just the second I'm driving through Fargo, I wear my sunglasses at night. I'm like, I feel young again.
Corey Hart, you're the unofficial mayor of Fargo to this day. They just can't get enough heart in Fargo.
Right.
So on your gig, traveling around, you mentioned earlier, like, language is changing and people are picking up other things. when you first started traveling nationally, did you then look back and recognize like what is interesting about the area you came in from? Like you hear about Minnesota Nice,
Right.
the kind of things that Fargo, of course, the Coens, local guys, poking fun at. Did you get a new appreciation for where you come from when you started traveling more?
Yeah, in a sense, and an appreciation for everywhere else that you just didn't know anything about.
Right,
you know?
right.
And because I went to college down in Florida.
Oh, okay. What school?
USF in Tampa, University of South Florida.
Yeah.
And for a year, and then transferred up to the U of M.
Okay.
After that, and then dropped out.
Right.
And
most important part.
Oh, that's right. And I remember I go down to Florida, and my friends, they had no idea about Minnesota, and this isn't even bit. This is just they're like, "Do you guys have like electricity and stuff?"
Yeah, right. Yeah.
They literally asked that, and I'm like, "Well, not in the outhouse. We don't."
Yeah,
but,
right. No. And hey, my first time I was ever in Los Angeles, I said I was from Atlanta, and the guy said, "How do you get here from there?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Do you have an airport?" And I said, "Yeah, it's the busiest airport in the country." And he goes, "In Atlanta, Georgia?" And I was like, "Boy, this is 1990." I'm like, "Yeah, we got a lot to learn, folks. We gotta open our eyes a little bit."
Yeah, only Delta's hub.
Jeez. And then what led to the dropout? Let's talk about the college dropout experience. For me, was my friend called literally and said, "Hey, do you want to start a band?" I'll go, "Yeah, please, anything." Gotta go.
Right.
What was it for you? Was there a moment? Was it a slow build? What was happening?
I ran out of money.
That helps.
And yeah, I think it was, I did really well in high school, grade-wise.
Yeah.
And then in college, I didn't do so well. And then I also was kind of leaning towards the comedy thing anyway.
Yeah.
And going, I'll take some years off and do this. And it's whatever. And then I can go back if I want. And I almost went back when I was 30 and then said nope.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
What kind of gigs were you working to pay the bills when you were a young comedian, like trying to figure it all out?
Worked at a parts distributor that, it was pretty cool because they let me leave whenever I wanted to go do a gig.
That is cool.
And so at that, you're just like, okay, this works. You can kind of pay your bills, but still get to go do comedy.
I often imagine for comedy, like the young, lean years, those jobs have got to be a wellspring for material. Just, being behind the counter or being in the kitchen or whatever, bartending, there's just so much interaction that your subconscious is picking all of it up. Were you thinking along those lines? Were things popping up in your as you were writing more and more material, or were you just more introspective stuff and thinking about it from a whole different angle?
Yeah, I think a different angle at the time. Just other life. The job itself wasn't super fun,
right,
or super funny. And now I get it from the other side of the counter. Okay, it's just as a customer,
sure,
seeing all this stuff. My God, you were talking about grapes yesterday, or no, going through the grocery store and taking stuff out of the bag.
Sure, okay.
Did you remember? And
I don't remember a thing.
Okay, yeah. It was early, and but I keep getting crap from the guy at the grocery store. Number one in this, I bring my basket to him, and he's like, "Can you take the stuff out of the basket, please?" And I'm like, "Dude." I told him, I go, "No, thank you."
Yeah.
And he goes, "What?" I go, "No, thank you."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Why not?" I go, "You're on the clock. I'm not."
Yeah.
And that says over there, it says self-checkout.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what's this?
Yeah.
I tell him, I go, "Make you a deal. You take it out of the bin, I'll bag it." And then he's giving me crap for my grapes. And I want to take this opportunity to tell, because I told the people last night in the audience on Tuesday and Wednesday, you don't have to buy the whole bag of grapes. You can take some out of those bags and then put them in another bag and then weigh it. Because this guy keeps giving me crap. He's like, "You got to buy the whole bag of grapes." I'm like, "No, you don't."
No, you don't.
It's yeah, exactly.
By weight, yeah.
Exactly.
Wow. I've never thought about it, but of course that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And then I Googled it after that. I'm like, "Am I the only asshole?"
Yeah, right, yeah.
And it's like, no, there's a whole thing. Like, people are like, "I didn't know." I'm like, yeah, no, you don't need 4 pounds.
Comedy and produce tips. John DeBoer. What can't you do?
I learned that because I used to eat the grapes as I wandered around the store, and then was informed by somebody I was dating at the time. They said, "You're stealing." And I said, "No, I'm going to pay for the bag of grapes. It's like a bag of chips." And they said, "No, you pay for it by weight." And I went, "Oh, I'm stealing. I'm definitely stealing."
Yeah. I spent a summer in a produce department at a grocery store. Summer of '85.
Really?
Pretty good time, knowing nothing about fruits or vegetables, but dispensing advice to customers on a regular basis.
Right.
And the number of times I selected just the right cantaloupe for a little old lady. I just thump it, put it. This is the one. I have no idea what I was doing. It was great.
Thank you, young man.
Yeah. It was a great summer, except that I missed Live Aid because that Saturday I was unloading a semi full of produce. The whole rest of the world was watching Live Aid from London, the Queen performance, all those iconic performances. I didn't see 1 minute of it.
Oh man,
You missed out. What are you gonna do now?
I go back on a regular basis. YouTube, thank God, saved my life. I go back, I relive the Live Aid I never lived through in the first place. It's a gorgeous thing. It really is. John DeBoer's at Acme. 2 shows tonight, 2 shows tomorrow night. Okay, now, anybody in the public has a bio, and I'm always curious as to how much of that you have a part of, or if someone just wrote it for you, because I'm reading something that says your show flows from the devious side of childhood. And I'm curious what that might be referencing. The devious side of childhood.
The devious side. That would be referencing very old material.
Okay. That checks out.
I didn't write it. Another comic friend of mine wrote that. He's like, yeah, I can't write my own bio. I'm like, I'm funny. You know?
Yeah, right. So what was there some childhood malfeasance in as a young man up in the Fargo-Moorhead area?
Not so much in the childhood.
No?
Yeah, I don't
Later
know.
life?
I think he might have been. He wrote it.
All right. Well, then when's the last time you broke the law?
When's the last time I broke the law?
Yeah.
I guess I ate some grapes the other day.
There you go. That's it.
I did borrow the U of M's parking lot for 5 minutes this morning without paying to get a McDonald's over there.
Watch it. Yeah,
I mean, in Dinkytown, you are taking some chances. Those tow trucks follow you around, man.
I know. I was literally thinking, I'm like, I wonder if I have 5 minutes.
The hands-free McDonald's, all kiosk and all that. Like, did you see a human?
An arm came out. Yeah. I saw her arm.
Yeah, right.
And said, number 772, please.
Yeah, and it's the arm. You know how, like, when they used to do the, if you see a little plastic bin and it's got 6,000 mosquitoes in it, and you put there's a hole to glove, so you don't get bitten. You know, that's what the McDonald's. It's like this hole in the wall appears, and a weird gloved arm has a bag of food.
That's right.
You have 9 seconds to take this food.
I know it is. It is weird though how they're all getting those kiosks, and you're not in a restaurant. You're just in a room that gives you food.
Yeah,
it's like a waiting area.
Yeah, or it's like being sick as a kid.
Yeah,
your mom just shows up with a grilled cheese and then leaves really fast. It's kind of one of those things, I think.
Yes.
It's exactly what that is. I had a great... Oh, yeah, here's a great question. You ever been in a bar fight?
Yeah. And then the one other...
Well, you're literally... there's a Rolodex in your mind of bar fights. I see it in your face.
Which one?
Which one do I talk about?
I'm trying to do I barely remember the day. No, it was at a Denny's.
A diner fight, bar fight, whatever.
That's where you go after the bar. That's a place where it can happen.
Yeah, it was at a Denny's, and it was in Missouri, and it was really late. It was like 2:00 in the morning, and these guys next to me said, I don't know, they were yapping, and I made some smart-ass comment, and the guy punched me in the face.
Well, I was wondering, but the smart-ass comment, that's just part of that's your stock and trade. So I'm just thinking, at the wrong time, you say something that's funny, but someone doesn't hear it as funny.
Yeah, that's right.
So you missed the memo. The late night fights with food, it's Waffle House, not Denny's. That's where you want to go for a brawl.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a whole YouTube rabbit hole, just Waffle House brawls, man.
Yeah, that's the one thing from
Florida.
From Florida.
Yeah.
And you just there's certain things there's certain things in other parts of the country that we just don't appreciate.
Sure.
We don't even know about it.
Exactly.
Like, oh man, no.
People have said to me, they're like, Waffle House, that must be so gross. I'm like, no, you don't understand. It's actually pretty darn good.
Right.
And it's shockingly good and weird no matter where. It's always something happening. Are you hip to the jukeboxes at Waffle House? Every jukebox has a bunch of songs to play, but they also have, and this goes back to when they used to actually still have 45s they would play, but now the digital jukeboxes still have them.
Oh.
There are songs about the Waffle House.
Really?
That artists recorded in the 70s that you can play, and it's like they're like country songs. They sound real, but then if every Waffle House jukebox is like, "There's a lady working hard all night long at the Waffle House," and those songs exist. You can Google them and see them online. Yeah, next time, just to put that in your back pocket.
I got a new playlist.
Yeah, there's a new playlist right there.
Yes.
It's always pretty great, but yeah, people don't understand. It's like a David Lynch film more often than not at a Waffle House any time of day.
Oh, I know. Oh, that was, yeah. I went to a Waffle House once, and it was in Indiana, and I was on my way to, I stopped right in Gary, Indiana. I was on my way to Toledo, and like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And I go to this Waffle House at 3 o'clock in the morning, and that David Lynch tripped me here because the way it was so David Lynch, and the waitress was just absolutely beautiful. 3 o'clock in the morning at a Waffle House.
Sure.
And then she smiled, and there were very few teeth
there.
Yeah. And it was just the way she smiled, just such glorious personality. You know, and I sit down there. She comes up. She goes, "Get you some coffee, guy." And I'm like, "No, I'm wondering how far to Toledo, and if I don't know if I should get a hotel here or keep going. How far to Toledo?" And she goes, "Toledo?" I go, "Yeah, Toledo. Toledo?
Toledo?
I go, "Yeah, Toledo, Ohio." She goes, "Oh, Toledo." and then she's holding her coffee thing, and she looks down at, there's this old, huge biker-looking dude at the end of the counter, and she goes, "Hey, Bart, how far to Toledo?" And he gets up, and he slowly lumbers over to me.
Yeah.
And he's got me by 2 feet, looks down at me, goes, "Go to bed."
Okay.
And I go, "What?"
Okay.
And he goes, "Get a room. It's too far." And then he walks back down and sits down and drinks his coffee.
Attaboy.
And she looks at me. She goes, "Well, you heard the man. Get you some coffee, guy." It's the weirdest thing.
Twilight Zone.
Yes.
And God knows the hash browns were worth it.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
John DeBoer at Acme tonight, 7 and 9:30. Tomorrow night, 7 and 9:30. Brother, anytime. You're welcome back. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks a lot, you guys. Have a great day.
You got it. All right, time to learn something, John. All right, on this day in 1995 in Denver, Colorado, Coors Field officially opened and kind of changed baseball because that first season with the altitude, man, we were trying to get used to a bunch of games with double-digit scoring. I've only been there once. 1996, I saw Barry Bonds get the 40th steal of the season. He already had 40 home runs, so the 40-40 club, pretty rare air, at least in the late 90s. Barry Bonds was still normal-sized in 1996.
Right.
He was
that?
great. He was dominant and skinny, as opposed to the guy that later turned up jacked to the nines on every possible bit of steroid and growth hormone imaginable. Best player on the field by a mile, clean. It's only a matter of time till he, went over to the dark side.
Get the KQ Morning Show podcast wherever you listen. 92 KQRS.